Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Mark O'Brien, Director at CM First, both CA Technologies, and we would thank you for attending today's webinar called Roadmaps for CA Plex and CA Tui. We'll also cover the latest information on the 10th DevCon conference next spring, and also some several tech talks around the theme of DevOps. We in CA got a lot of cover in this webinar, and while we have some people still arriving, I'm going to put a first poll question up on the screen for you. Do you have the poll question up? So the question is, what would you like to see more of at the 10th DevCon in the spring of 2019? Just a few more seconds here. Okay, voting is now concluded. And what do our results look like? So a resounding 81% said more technical presentations. And that is in alignment with the most popular topic for the current survey takers as well too, followed by customer presentations, and then entertainment. So thanks for that. So in addition to the 10th conference, can we advance to the next slide? Yeah, so here's our agenda for today. Chirag Dave, who is the new product champion at CA Technologies, so he'll be talking about the roadmaps for Plex and Tui. He'll be followed by our first lightning talk on CM MatchPoint with Christoph and Eric Giron, and then a second talk about automated function and load testing using SmartBear by Lucio, and then last, a nice update on the CA Tui CM Implementer update and tips. We'll have Q&A at the end of that, and so let's go forward. I think I've got some announcements here about the survey. So everyone who's on this call will get access to a link when we send you the download of the presentation. We'll also send you a link to being able to take the seminar. I want to thank about almost 70 of you have already filled out the feedback, which is really cool. So we're trying to get more. We're going to cut everything off this Friday, and then the committee, Christoph and Amy, will be making the final decisions about location and logistics and dates and all that sort of thing too later on this month. Next slide. So survey results, as I said, again this Friday. Most importantly, you want great topics Tuesday and Wednesday, which is amplified beautifully here by the first poll question. That's what you want, and that's what you'll get. People also want roadmap details. They wanted in general, for general topics, data protection and security was a stronger selection than others. In terms of location, currently South Florida is in the lead. It's preferred by about 2-to-1 over Chicago. There were a number of people who did want their hometown to be the location for the next conference, but we can't accommodate that. We'd love to go to Sydney or or Capri, but we can't do that. And we need more customer volunteers. I understand everybody's busy. We're all doing lots of stuff, but this is community supported, and we couldn't put it on without the success within the community. For Tui users, On the right side here, roadmap, tips and tricks, and modernization were the three most strong topics that they wanted, that TUI users wanted to see. On the Plex side, it's roadmap, web and mobile app gen, and tips and tricks were the strongest. So now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Chirag and Vijay, who are going to talk about the Plex and Tui roadmaps.
Thanks, Mark. Can I have the presentation right? If not, we can just walk through and you can change the slides for me.
Yeah, that's nice. Oh, okay. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be responding. We'll do that.
All right, thank you. So, hello all, I'm Chirag, and I'm the product manager for Plex and Tui. Vijay is the product owner. He's currently not on the call. And I'm going to walk you through the things that we are doing at CA and also the roadmap for Plex first, and then followed by Tui. With our time in mind, I'll try to wrap it up quickly. At CA, we are trying to change the way we are delivering the incrementals, the releases for Plex and Tui, and also it's a whole initiative at in our mainframe business unit that we are trying to shy away from incremental releases. We tried that for our products or at the mainframe side, and we are not too keen on following that. We are trying to adjust and adapt to the new continuous delivery model that was used earlier, and that's what we want to work towards. It's currently under consideration, but it has been decided for us as well that for Plex and Tui, we want that we would deliver in continuous delivery way. So for Plex and Tui, we have PTFs coming up, and we have shared in the past that it will be due anytime. We have given multiple timelines, and we understand that, but there are certain things which are on the way because of which we are having this delay. Customer issues, first of all, always takes a precedence over the current deliveries that we have. So we focus on the customer issues, get them resolved. And if there are any bugs that are a part of that issue, then we would bundle them into we'll bundle the fixes into the cumulative PTF. So now the way we are going to deliver this is saying anytime a new feature is implemented, which is substantial enough for an end user, we would go and deliver just a PTF for that feature. And for the bug fixes, we will have a cumulative PTF. So as and when we have, say, 15 or 20 or 30, whatever the number is, those bug fixes are ready, then we would put them into a PTF and then roll them out. That way, the end user now has a choice of saying, do I want this feature implemented in my environment or no? If you don't want the feature to be implemented, then you are saying, all right, I'm just going to ignore the feature PTF, and I would rather go and just get the cumulative PTF for the bug fixes. So that's the strategy that we are going to follow for Plex and Tui. The timeline, I'm sure a lot of people have this question around the timeline of the PTFs. And the latest decision that we have done around this delivery for the PTF for Plex and Tui is moving towards the end of October. So end of this month, we should have the Plex and Tui, both the PTFs ready. So that will be something that's going to be ready by end of this month. And then we would go and see there are some feature. So this PTFs are going to be cumulative PTFs for the bug fixes. And then we would be moving on to some feature PTF for Plex. And so that will have I'll walk you in the roadmap as to what we have ready and what we are planning on adding in the feature PTFs for Plex. And then Tui will then have the PTF ready later on once we start working on those features that are part of the roadmap. So that's where we stand with the product delivery. Now we'll go to the Plex roadmap. If there are any questions, yeah, we can probably target now or end of the webinar. But I'll quickly move on to the Plex. Thank you, Plex roadmap. So what we have done already from the planned items are the first three items are already done. So basically saying you can select all in the source code editor, because that's something which is useful to an end user. So we are providing that capability here, so you can move the code around pretty quickly. Then we are also removing triples, the delete call statement from the model editor, and that basically it's like three things together. And then that's already done. So we also implemented the navigation to the previous cursor position functionality. Commenting multiple lines. So right now we can only comment one line in the code. So we understand the pain behind that. So we're going to go and have the capability of commenting multiple lines, and that's something useful to the end user as well. So again, bunch of functionality around the end user who is actually into the building of the applications, just making their life easier, even by providing a search. You could have a word in the Plex ID, and we don't have that right now, and you can just type in, and you could do individual search as well. Some housekeeping that will be done as well. So for the model, so that is something that's also planned. So once we have all this planned items addressed, then we are also actively considering support for 64-bit, because we understand that a lot of large models crash under 32-bit. So we are considering 64-bit support. We are trying to we'll see what estimation, what effort is there for this kind of support needed. And as always, feedback from all the end users will definitely be appreciated. So that's the thing that we have right now on Plex. If there are no questions, we'll just move on to Tui, and then maybe take any comments or questions later on.
Yeah, sure. If people have on your console, there's a place for you to put questions into the console, and then we'll take them all at the Q&A session at the end of all the talks.
All right, sounds good. Okay, thank you. All right, so for Tui, same thing. As I said, once the cumulative PTF rolls out with the bug fixes, then we'll start working on the feature items. So unlike Plex, the planned items are not yet started implementing. So we're going to work on that once after the end of the month, once the PTF is out. So first of all, what you're going to do is, basically what we have noticed is that the names are kind of like, the generated objects, they have some weird names. So like XYZ or AA4MB or things like that. So those names are whatever generated, we want them to be more meaningful. So we're going to start include the model name into the generated object. So that's what we want. So rather than having some random name, we want the model names to be part of the generated objects, makes it easier to understand. And second follow-up thing that we would do is that we'll add the native string handling routine. So basically, those routines already been supplied by IBM. They have provided them. It's more like the trim line, other functions that are out there. Those routines are going to be supported, and we want to optimize the SQL support as well. So there are a bunch of items that we are trying to see what we can implement here, because I think partition support is also one of the items which is important, because the DBs are at a limit. So we understand that, with this limitations, the users can actually, once we have the partition implemented, the users could actually have DB support with increased storage. And that's the idea behind providing partition support. And we're also thinking of, we have done, I think in the past user conference, we did the REST POC, and this is something that we would consider moving forward as to how we want to enable the RESTful services on the Tui side. So, I mean, there are a lot of considerations to be done and changes required. So that's something that we want to consider as well. And the other consideration items are the HTML5 application support. So basically, it's just like we want to enhance the current applications by providing the support. So you could be platform agnostic applications can be built. And currently, we only have HTML4, so we want to take it to the next level to HTML5, and then improve the SQL as well by improving the fetch performance by adding the select particular columns instead of the current methodology of following select star. So that would also improve the performance on the SQL side. So those are the items that we are considering, and based upon the feedback and the estimation what we gather for these efforts, we would be going and moving on those lines. That's all I have for Plex and Tui roadmap. And as I said about the PTF discussions about the delivery, that's what we are planning from within CA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chirag. So the next section here is going to deal with DevOps. So as a setup for that, we've got another poll question for you, which is simply, what DevOps initiatives does your company currently have going on? There's 5 different options there. Nice, we got a lot of people voting on it. We'll close the poll in 15 seconds. Okay, we have poll is not concluded. Looks like we've got a flat-footed tie between we're basically between Agile and still investigating, and haven't gone to Agile. That's kind of an interesting split. And then others aren't really doing much of anything yet. So for those 70% that are either doing something or fixing to do something, as we'd say in Texas, we have a couple of talks coming up, beginning with CM MatchPoint. I'll introduce Christoph and Eric to do that, followed by Lucio and Smart Pair Automated Testing, and then Mark Schroeder on the CA Tui Change Management. Okay, Christoph?
Yeah, thank you, Mark. All right, in this next session, we will give you a brief MatchPoint product update, which includes new features around DevOps and automation. My name is Christoph Heinrich, I'm the product manager, and with me is Eric Duran, product owner, and he will give you a demonstration of these topics. In this diagram, you see the complete process of a change request going through a system, and today I want to highlight 3 steps of this process. First, the Plex model management with Subversion will show you how we use MatchPoint and Subversion to automate the extraction and update process and include backup copies of your local and group models. Second, the gen and build automation, which allows you to automatically gen and build objects associated with a change request. And third, we show you how we integrated automated testing with SmartBear TestComplete. And finally, a quick preview of MatchPoint 6.5, which will be released this month. And the big change here is that we changed the MatchPoint backend from RPG to Java, which means that you can now run MatchPoint on any platform. You can still run it on the i, and of course, we are still supporting all the deployment processes on the IBM i. But if you are a Plex shop and you do not develop for the IBM i, CM MatchPoint can now be an ALM solution for you to look into. Okay, with this, I'm handing it over to Eric for the demonstration.
Thank you, Christoph. Good morning, my name is Eric Duran. I'm from CM First. Today, as Christoph says, I'm going to show you with MatchPoint how we use Subversion, the autogen process, and the testing. The integration with Subversion in MatchPoint allows you to an easier way to manage the CA Plex model. We sometimes present a challenge with split teams. Subversion allows you to have backup mechanisms, allow you to easily revert to a point in time in your group model if you have any issue. Also, MatchPoint will use Tortoise Subversion command line as a client and will use Subversion server as Subversion Edge. These both tools are free, so you can install without any problem in your environment. So I'm going to show how easily MatchPoint make the group model management with Subversion. So we have one change request. To this change request, we will add a local model, so a local model extract. We will make some change to that local model and then update that to the group model using Subversion. So I'm going to show you that right now. So we have our change request and we're going to extract a local model for this change request. This is going to happen, this is going to make a couple of things in the back. So one thing is going to make sure that this is a working copy from a Subversion repository. So the first thing it's going to do is going to get the latest from that repository so that every developer has the latest from the group model. Okay. Then after that is going to lock that group model copy just to make sure that nobody makes or tries to make any change to the group model during this user is extracting. So to avoid any conflict in the process. So I'm going to do this fast scan. The MatchPoint, now this is the normal Plex process to extracting a group model. So I have a new group model, a new local model extracted. I save it. I let now MatchPoint to know that I have the extract local model correctly. So what MatchPoint is going to do is going to commit any change that he can find in the group model to make sure that everything is updated based on the last extract. And then it's going to unlock the working copy so that the other user can work now. And now we can add that, and we're going to make a change into that local model just for you to see how MatchPoint actually going to update the group model repository. So I'm going to make a change here. Just simple change just to make sure that everything is correct. So I have the change done now, and I'm going to tell MatchPoint that I'm going to update this group model to the repository. So I'm going to clear my logs here for you to see the process. So I'm going to update. So it's going to do the same process. It's going to get the latest from Subversion. It's going to log, making sure nobody else trying to update the group model in the Subversion repository, going to process in the Plex environment. Okay, so now we have our group model updated, and now we let MatchPoint to know that we have updated our group model. And this is going to submit any change to the repository, making sure that everybody knows when they try to update, they will have the latest. Okay, so the group model has been updated. And I can show you here and the repository and the show log that MatchPoint is going to put all the changes in place, and you can go back in time anytime you want to. So the group model manager with MatchPoint and Subversion makes really easier to have a group model really up to date without the many problems we have when we have corruption in the group model or one object. So that was the part for the Subversion. Now I'm going to tell you about the AutoGen tool. The AutoGen tool is a process that actually allows you to gen and build from Plex. This process is really useful for long unattended gen and build process. So you can run it from MatchPoint, or you can run it from the MatchPoint promotion process that is going to show you today, or you can run it standalone. That is can be configurable, so you can set up wherever you need to gen manually, or you can run it from the promotion process. Also, MatchPoint allows to integrate with another components via the user-defined process. This is the case for the auto packaging process we have for web application where we create the WAR files. Also for component like TestComplete, which allow us to run testing indirectly from MatchPoint, later run and then read the results. So in this promotion process that I have right now, the component, the different environment had different setup. For example, the development environment will have the AutoGen. So this means that this process, when I promote out of this environment, it will trigger the AutoGen process. And then the QA process, which will have the TestComplete run. This will run the TestComplete and also run the TestComplete result. So I'm going to promote. This is going to be quick. The first thing it's going to do is going to run the AutoGen tool. As you can see, this can be run as a standalone or can be run from the promotion process. And you can define or decide which one, what you want to generate mode, generate or build, or just generate a build. In this case, as this is a Java function, a web client application just going to generate. I'm going to use the list. The list is related to the number of the change requests, so that's the way MatchPoint know which object will generate in the process. So the generation will open Plex and recycle through the process to try to do a good management of the memory from Plex. So we generate this. It's going to take 1 minute. So it's going to open Plex, or it's going to generate based on what we send. In this case, what is contained in this list. We can use list, we can use package, or we can use subject area to generate. So right now, this is just generating the sources. Then it's going to kick in the packages. That is minimized in this process because that process can take some time to generate the WAR file. And after that, it's just going to tell me that the generation has finished. And this process can be run as unattended. So you have thousands of functions to generate. You just configure the AutoGen tool in a way that recycles every often, and then you can actually have that run unattended, and that will be okay. So right now, the general process has finished, right? So after this, what it's going to do is going to move that from the development environment to the QA environment, and it's going to trigger the TestComplete process. So now we're processing the TestComplete. I'm not going to let it run. This is going to be detailed by Lucio in his presentation, but I just want to show you that you can call the TestComplete from MatchPoint. I'm just going to stop the test and just going to let the results to be shown. Okay, I'm stopping just the test because Lucy is going to be in detail with that. And in a couple of minutes, this will generate a couple of minutes or so. It will generate the test result, and the test result will tell you how the test went, and you can make a decision. In this case, I just interrupt the project or the test, and you can see and you can make a decision here. This was in development, now it's moved to QA. Sorry, this is the one. Now it's moved to QA and it's in the MatchPoint demo QA environment, and you can make a decision if you want to, based on the test result, you can make a decision if you move to the production or just continue testing doing the MatchPoint process, in the MatchPoint GUI, sorry. So that has shown the three components we want to show you here. I also want to talk to you about the new release of the MatchPoint. As Christoph said, we're moving out from RPG to Java as a backend. So now we can connect to kind of any JDBC DB manager that supports JDBC, and we can connect to that. Right now, we're supporting IBMI and we're supporting SQL, but in the future, we will support more database so that you can use any database with MatchPoint, and that will be easier for shops that don't have IBMI on it. And we have the database we're testing. We're making sure that the new release is making easier for you to have reporting based on the new database. So we will have a meaningful name and things like that in the next release. And that's what I have, Christoph. So I'm going back and sending back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Eric.
Great. While we're saying thank you, Christoph and Eric, while we're waiting for Lucia to set up, we've got another poll question, aptly called, do you perform automated testing for either CA2E or CA Plex? Okay, 10 seconds to go. Okay, and testing is not concluded. So looks like slightly over half of you are quite interested, although you have not started to do automated testing. You see the business value in that. A third of our respondents don't have a need. That's common, especially in systems where you've got kind of one person, one big brain doing that. And then 5 and 4% have either automated functional testing or automated API testing. So thank you for that. And now I'm going to introduce Lucio, who's going to talk more about automated testing and how SmartBear TestComplete is used to do that.
Hello, can you see my screen? Could you make me presenter, Mark? Thank you. Hello, everybody. Thanks for allowing me to talk about a topic that is so important to our IT organizations, but unfortunately is often considered a secondary aspect, or even worse, is completely neglected, which is the concept of automated testing. And we just saw that about half our groups don't have any kind of automated testing. And even in those organizations where automated testing is not required right now, the modernization of the old systems will eventually require some sort of automation. And for those of you who have Plex shops who have migrated to the Java platform or .NET platform, you know about the challenges that we talk about when we are working with distributed systems. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about this. So
Lucio, we're still not seeing your screen, Lucio.
oh, let me see. Do you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So, well, I am Lucio Galloso. I'm a senior consultant and team lead with CM First, and I have participated in different modernization and DevOps projects where automated testing is integral to the concept. So we cannot go with a fully implementable DevOps flow where we don't consider automation, and particularly automation in testing. And for those of you who are already working on an agile framework or agile principles, you know about the challenges of moving through the different environments in much faster cycles. Right now we have iterations that last 1 or 2 weeks, so we definitely need to be consistent with our applications. And the proposal that we have here is using 2 products from the Smart Bear company, which is TestComplete and Load Complete. TestComplete is for functional UI testing, and TestComplete is a product that was released in 2001, and ever since they have been releasing consistently new versions of the product. We're currently working on version 12.6, which is the one that we'll demo today. And this product started as a Delphi COM server application. But as you can see here on this image, it provides a very modern and attractive IDE. If you are familiar with modern IDEs such as Eclipse, you will immediately recognize and become familiarized with the different editors and the navigation and flow within the IDE. TestComplete provides memory-based functional testing. That means that opposing other testing approaches that were capturing sections of the screen, XY coordinates, TestComplete allows accessing all the objects that are loaded in memory and then read their attributes to provide any kind of test that you can imagine. It also provides an extensible framework, meaning that it's already, the IDE provides you all the necessary tools to create the different tests that you can see. But if that is not enough, you can also extend the framework. TestComplete also includes an IDE kit so that you can create any kind of additional testing capabilities that you require. But so far, we have been able to achieve everything we have with pretty much everything we have in mind with pretty much what the IDE provides. And these are some examples of the different things that we can test: DLLs, .NET applications, Windows internals, C++ code, and others. So TestComplete allows the scripting and the recording of tests for any type of application, mobile, desktop, web, and based on the different possibilities of either recording the actions on the screen or scripting, you can hit the ground running. Even if you don't have any internal experience with any automated testing, you can immediately become proficient by recording the operations that your QA and testers group goes on a day-to-day basis, and then that becomes the foundation for your testing. So here we can see the recording screen, and here on the right we can see the scripting screen, where you can go pretty much lines of creating lines of code on one of the major scripting languages that TestComplete supports. You can create and leverage your existing skill set with JavaScript, JScript, Python, VBScript, Delphi script, C# and C++ script. And now let's see TestComplete in action. So I'm taking control of a remote server that has some tests I pre-created for the application that Eric and Christoph demonstrated in the previous stage of this presentation. Here is the IDE for TestComplete. I'm going to load my test project. The test project is part of a suite, and there is no limit to the number of tests that you can include for a suite. In this case, we're testing a web application, part of one of our M3 projects, and I created two basic tests. One, to cycle through the creation of users on a page. So this test will sign on to a web page with some given credentials, navigate to a person entry screen, and create records. And this other test will navigate to the results page. This test also includes the capability to read out of a text file, which is also some nice feature and very used feature of TestComplete, where you can create data-driven tests out of any kind of data source you have. In this case, I'm reading out of this text file, but you could easily connect to a database or run queries, or I don't know, access any data source, any data sources you can access through ODBC or JDBC, and pull data for your tests. So I'm going to, these two tests are concatenated in what is known as a test project. And here you can also establish conditions for your test, like this test depends on this other one. This test is mandatory to be completed successfully to consider the overall test project successful, or this test needs to run X number of times, or this test needs to time out after a certain period. So all the possible criteria that you can think of for the concatenation of your test is work here. So at this time, it's just a sequential execution of these two tests that I'm going to kick off.
Lucille, we're going to need to speed up this part of the demo, okay? Because
Yes.
you've got a lot of other stuff to cover. Thank you.
Certainly. So I knew that we were going to be a little short of time, so I'm just showing the kicking off of the project. And as you can see, I'm not doing anything. It's going to navigate, sign on, and perform that activity. But to expedite this, I recorded the test. So this, what we're going to quickly glance at, is that same execution. So here you can see how it navigates to the page. It enters all the data, reading out of the text file, then creates my next record, and then executes the next test to load the results. So that's TestComplete. Now let's briefly talk about Load Complete. Load Complete is the complement to TestComplete. It allows you to test the capabilities of your websites and web services. So TestComplete, Load Complete allows recording a basic test, and then you define the number of virtual users to be able to stress test the capabilities of that application. So the way to work on the IDE, which is also very similar to TestComplete, is you record the test and then you define the characteristics of how you execute that test. So I'm going to jump into a very brief demo. So I'm going to interrupt this test with TestComplete, and I'm going to close this suite, and I'm going to open Load Complete. You will notice that the interface is very similar to TestComplete. So SmartBear provides a very standardized user experience in their products. So you can easily, once you develop your skill set with one of the tools, start with the other. So here is my sign-on test for the same application, and I have set it to run with 25 virtual users. So when I execute this scenario, TestComplete will connect and execute the recorded HTTP requests and getting all the traffic and evaluate the traffic, and based on the thresholds that we have determined, it will determine whether the test is successful or it isn't, and provide details so that we can diagnose what the problem was, if any. So same as with the TestComplete, I recorded this test. So here you can see how the test is executing for 25 users. There are no errors. If the errors occur, you would see here a red line. And here you can see how TestComplete is capturing the different details that are evaluated at the end, and provide you the main metrics. This is the top page with the results, where you can see important information as your page load time and your time to first byte or last byte, which can immediately give you a picture of the performance and the quality of your application. And basically that concludes my presentation.
Great.
On return and control.
Thank you, Lucio.
My pleasure.
We're waiting for Mark Schroeder to set up. I've got one more poll question for you. No. It's for TUI users regarding the end of life for CA TUI version 8.6, which is scheduled for the end of January. What are your plans? And 10 more seconds. Okay. So our results, basically slightly over half of you are currently on 8.7, so no action is needed. And then 21% are basically on an older version and basically staying on an older and supported version. 18% do plan to move before January, and then 7% are on an older version and will move to 8.7 later on in 2019. Thanks. Now, Mark Schroeder talking about CM PTC.
All right. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Implementer, okay. So what I'm going to talk about today is Implementer, the updates that have happened in 2018, and then I'm going to go into a tip on using Implementer or CM, whichever way you refer to it, to manage objects in the IFS. Okay. So I just picked 4 of the changes that are occurring this year. There's not a lot, but these are the ones that I thought could be significant to some of the people on the call today. The first one is probably the most significant. If you're using an older method of communication, such as SNADs, for moving your objects to your different boxes, that will not be working in future releases. So in this year's release, there's a message that you'll get warning you of the change that in the future, CM is only going to support TCP/IP for communication. Secondly, the Implementer continues to enhance its SQL capabilities. So one of the things it's doing is it's going to support both source-based and non-source-based triggers. I know for most TE shops this isn't significant yet, but as TUI continues to enhance its SQL support, we can feel assured that Implementer or CM is there to support us in our moves. Another SQL update is that SQL tables are going to be using the create or replace versus an alter table. This is just to make the moves of tables and the updates of tables more efficient. So they continue to find ways to make the process better and better for SQL processing. The last one is one that I've run into several times in my work, is the number of database files on a promotion request it used to, currently has been 999. So if you have 1,000 tables, you're moving a whole model or something, you've had to break it into multiple requests. Now you will be able to go up to 9,999 tables. So that should help several of us out. Next, I want to talk about some of the updates that they're making to their backend. If you have any reports that you write over the backend tables on CM, or maybe you've written some programs that read the files or something, or update the files, although it's not the best thing, some people have that. These files in the list are either going to be updated or deleted. So you'll want to verify with your customizations for Implementer if you are touching these files. All right, so that's enough for the updates. Now I want to talk about how to move IFS objects and how to manage them. A lot of us are using something like Web Option or other tools to make web front ends for our TUI applications. And we can manage the CSS or HTML or different objects with CM if we have that desire. And so it's very simple to get ready. Primarily, all you have to do is set up the directory for each environment. So for your dev, QA, and production environments, you would set up a directory. And in this case, I'm setting up a directory path for my test development environment. And that's basically all I have to do for the environment. Then I go and do a 30 on my environment to do a build. What the build does is same thing as when you initially set up your environment, is it sets up your repository within Implementer. It'll use both the native and the IFS objects and put them into the repository so that they are there available. It just makes the process slightly easier down the road. So here's a process of going through to the build list, and I did a 30 on my production environment. You really don't need to do the development or testing environment. It's best to do it on the production. And so like if you have a whole website already on your computer in your IFS, in your production environment, and you do this 30, all those objects then will be referenced in Implementer. So let's do a quick demo of moving a CSS file. It's in the production environment. We're going to move it to dev, QA, and then back into production. So the first step is like any other object. We do a checkout. The one difference is there is an F6 IFS entry. On this screen, you enter the name of your file. In this case, I have site.css, and I'm writing it in lowercase just to show you a feature down the road. Here you see it. It's in the workbench. It says site_1. So what it's done, because Implementer does not show lowercase characters, it's going to give it a name, something like this. And you can see that we have it checked out to change right now. Then the next thing I want to do is show you that it is in my development environment. So there's my site.css over on my IFS. Next step is to do an 11 to promote my object. Just like a native object within Implementer, like you all would be used to doing. And I'm going to promote it to my QA environment. So once I do that, now I see the status is in QA. And if I look on the IFS, I can see I'm in my QA folder here, and there's my site.css file. And so next we want it to go from QA over to production. So I'm going to do my 11 to do my promotion. And the way I have my set up, I have to continue to do a move request. And I'm going to move my file And here you see now in my production folder, there is my site.css file. So what's happened here is it copied the site.css file over into my development folder. I would have updated it and then moved it over to my QA folder. And then from my QA folder, it moved over to production, and it replaced the site.css file that was in production. So that's the basic process that I have set up. If you have further questions on this, feel free to email me, and I'll be happy to discuss it with you.
Thank you, Mark. We're going to move rapidly into Q&A session right now. I've got several for Chirag. First question for you, Chirag, is what is the timeline for the free community version of Plex, the limited version that was in the roadmap?
That's still under consideration. We are discussing around it. We do not have the effort estimation at this point, so we cannot share the timeline. But once we have it, we'll post it on the communities to share.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next, one of our attendees, their company management wants to know if there are any impacts from the Broadcom impending acquisition on the Plex family of products, timelines, future support, etc.
Not at all. At this point, it's business as usual, and the word that we have heard from the acquisition is saying it's moving forward. It's not done yet. It's still in the process, but we are hearing all positive feedback from Broadcom about their interest in the mainframe business unit, and around that, the products that revolve. So it's all good for now, and we haven't heard or have any information around the future for on these products.
Okay. Next question. Basically, Lancer recently presented a seminar stating in the near future that 50% of software development will be done with a low-code generator. What kind of Plex marketing initiatives are planned for this year and for next year, and how often will market